Welcome! Hey, what's happening? Oh, hey, people. Hello. Hello. All right. Welcome to DenverScript. Hey, I got it right this time. Not develop Denver. I mean, well, we're going to be slipping that in a little bit more because it is our 5-year anniversary of running this meetup. And as a celebration, we are going to be raffling off a Develop Denver ticket. What are the dates for that, Guillermo?
It is August 15th and 16th, I believe. I'll confirm. But it is mid-August.
Sometime in mid-August.
What's that rate?
And if those, who doesn't know what Develop Denver is? Hey, making headway. It's a local conference. It's about design. It's about development, personal development. It's just an all-around good time, and you should definitely go. And it's a pretty affordable conference. Some lovely people put it on. Guillermo's one of them. That guy. But yeah, we will be, after the short talk, we'll be doing a raffle. So if you want to be a part of the raffle, we got a box, we got some paper, just rip off a piece of paper, write your name on it, and then at the end of the last talk, we'll draw names for it. So you need to be here. We're not doing emails or any of that, so you need to physically be here when we draw your name. Right on. Also,
13th and 14th.
August 13th and 14th?
Yes.
That is when the conference is. So if you are not busy those days, you might want to enter in the raffle. If not, you can always sell them a ticket.
What?
Okay, you'll have to take it over with Guillermo. Also, we have our stickers up here for our meetup. So we have our regular yellow ones. We have a Valentine's Day sticker that we've had for a while, but Mike had a great idea for our 5-year. Apparently wood is what you get on the, or you get something made of wood on the 5-year. So we have stickers that look like wood. I tried to get wood stickers. I did not have $700. So feel free to come up, get stickers. If the yellow ones run out, I got plenty of the other ones, so please let me know and I'll get you some stickers. So this is our kind of schedule. 6:15 is our intro, job announcements, what goes on JavaScript land, call for speakers. 6:45 is our shorter presentation. 7 p.m. is our longer presentation. 7:30 to 8:14 is socializing. 8:15, clear out. I got hard liquor to get to afterwards. So great. These are not possible without sponsors. So Co-Talent is the building you're in right now. If you are in the market for a job or need someone to find you some good talent, definitely talk to Co-Talent. There are actually a lot of really good people here. They're all good people, not some. No, they're all good. But they are sponsoring the venue, but also they were kind enough to make sure the beer fridge is supplied, and they are also supplying the soft drinks for those who do not drink alcohol. So thank you, Co-Talent, for sponsoring. Wrong slide deck. I work at GoSpotCheck, and they're only going to sponsor us quarterly now.
Shameless plug.
It's kind of a shameful plugin. Which one? Rotating. Oh, rotating. Quizlet. They're sponsoring the food. Woo. What does Quizlet do?
So Quizlet is an online learning platform. We currently reach about half to 2/3 of all secondary and post-secondary students in the U.S. 50 million active users. Come and learn anything that you really want to learn. We are hiring, so if you are interested in education, making it better, making it easier, come talk to me afterwards.
We haven't gotten to the job posting section, sir.
Whatever.
Well, thank you, Quizlet. Woo! Sweet. Job announcements. Does anyone here have a job they'd like to announce? Please come to the front of the classroom. You know what? I even got a microphone here for you.
Ooh, fancy.
I know. It's like super legit up in here.
That's it. Yeah. Hey guys, my name is Sam. I run a small software company called Shard. We're mostly based out of Denver here, and we work with companies that are really massive and really boring. So banks, health insurance companies, stuff like that.
You're really selling it.
I know. I love the spiel because everybody's like, oh, that's interesting, right? So anyway, we're always hiring software engineers and designers. So if you have front-end experience, back-end experience, full stack, anything goes, come talk to me. We build lots of different things, and we'd love to meet you. Thanks.
Hi, I'm with Home Advisor. I'm a Java developer there, and Home Advisor is doing a big push with hiring people, mostly Java developers and test engineers. We are Java Spring kind of shop, and some of our architecture is great. Other stuff is terrible. So if you're looking for diversity in your work, Home Advisor is a good place to be.
I know some of the people who wrote the original. It's I get it.
Yeah.
Hey guys, my name is Andrew. I am the president of a company called Showing Me. We are right now in the middle of our third round of fundraising, so we're a startup with about 8 people, and we're looking to build out our dev team in-house. For a long time, the way we built our app was contracting, and it got way expensive, so we are just cutting ties right now with contractors. We need React Native developers, if any of you know React Native, and we also use MongoDB for our backend. So if you're more into the data and you don't know React Native, it's still potential, but we're willing to pay. We have money. We just need time. We need to do it quickly. So let me know.
Yeah. Anyone else have jobs to announce?
Anybody that announced jobs, make sure that you go to the comment section of tonight's meetup and put links to the job postings that you had talked about or links to your page so people can find out more as well.
Also, we're an open collective, so we can take donations as a nonprofit. So Garrett, Connor, Ian, thank you for being monthly contributors. If you want to give us money, please. And so we can do things like try and make some swag, or just make sure we have, like, if you know, our sponsors can't meet us or give us money for food or booze, like, it's our way of trying to cover it instead of it coming out of our pockets. So please, if your company makes a lot of money and they want to give to someone a nonprofit, we're nonprofit. Which then this did not get the slide update, did it? No, because it's the other slide deck. Oh, that was a problem.
How many slide decks do we have?
Like 2.
Cool.
A regular one and the one for rotating sponsors. This is probably a bad idea. So this should say call for speakers. So next month we have one long presentation already lined up. Kyle Coberly will be coming in to talk about real agile. He is. Does anyone know Kyle Coberly?
Yeah.
Is he not a very entertaining speaker?
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun. He's a very animated speaker, and he's very smart, knows what he's talking about. So please come out next month to hear him. We are looking for a short presentation. So if you're looking to do a short talk, hit us up. Meetup.com, Twitter, Facebook, or not Facebook, Slack channel for Denver Devs. Hit us up on there. We're always looking for new speakers. So please come speak.
Cool. So now we'll actually do what's going on in JavaScript land. So you want to pull up the? Well, I mean, we're not exactly a well-oiled machine tonight. All right.
I don't know.
Perfect. Great. So what's going on in JavaScript land? So how many people were first timers tonight? Oh, sweet. So good. We're keeping about our half and half ratio going. So for those of you that are new, every month we always talk about new things going on in JavaScript, both either at a very high language or framework or software development level, or not even just new things to you that you've discovered. So normally to kick it off, whenever there is a new Chrome DevTools that comes out, we talk through some of the features of that, and then we ask you guys what you're excited about. So Chrome 80 is out. I think we're actually at 81 right now, but we go based off when they do their detailed release notes. The things that I'm going to go over, you can see the actual written release notes and a highlights video covering these things at those links there. Also, as I mentioned for the people with job postings to put into the comments section, we're going to put all this stuff into the comments section of today's meetup as well. So don't feel like you need to like write everything down or remember everything we talked about. But some of the highlights of Chrome 80. The first one is actually my favorite one of what they have on here. So console allows you to redeclare variables without having to like do a bunch of like magic wizardry, right? So you go like let something equal 10, and then the next line you do like let something equal 12, right? You get like that runtime error. It says like something's already been declared, right? And you have to go and then Google how do I clear out my console variables. Now they just sort of do some sugar for that for you, and kind of like essentially clear the old one and make a new one. So when you're just doing simple calculations, you can do that. They just now started supporting WebAssembly support. They've got, for debugging, they've got a whole article that dives into like how they're doing that. The link is provided in the release notes. The network panel has a couple of updates, or a few, but I went into the ones that I think are most interesting. This is in line with, if you've been following when we cover these things here over the past couple of years, they've been doing a lot of with the DOM is, you know, when you highlight parts of code or things like that, it automatically highlights in the DOM, like the DOM nodes that you're looking at. It looks like they're probably starting to move that way now with like the network panel. If you look at the different requests that were made and you select any of them, it'll actually highlight for you in the, what do they call it? In the top overview, it'll highlight which one it is and where it happens. See a little visual representation of it. Also for your requests, you can add columns now for absolute path and absolute URLs. So if you want to see what the actual full absolute versions of those were. Audits panel has updates, it always does. The coverage tab has some updates. This one's actually kind of cool. Previously, for your code coverage stuff, it would tell you only just per function. Now you can turn on something for actually like per code block. So this way you can get reports on, for those of you who aren't aware of how the coverage stuff works, it gives you a printout of the code that you have loaded, how much of it is actually being used and how much of it stays stale. And just sort of just you know, dead code you have living up there. Cool. So that's Chrome 80. That's what I'm excited about. What are you excited about?
ESLint 7's coming.
Woo!
I don't know what it means. I just saw it said a lot of breaking changes, and I got sad about updating my configs. Does anyone know what's new, awesome coming out with it?
Has anybody heard? Okay.
Okay. Well, it's coming, and don't upgrade unless you read. There's a lot of breaking changes apparently.
So with that, what are you guys excited about? And actually, as I mentioned, this can be high level, you know, direction that either the language or software development or frameworks are going or new things coming out, or it could be any just high five moments, like moments that you had that like on your own, like that you were working on a bug and you finally figured it out, or you started working with a new framework that's new to you, right? Even if it's been around for years, right? Like this is what I always say these things, like you're in a room of people that are probably the only room of people who would really be able to appreciate that like one stupid config that you figured out. So, you know, feel free to share it with us, right? So what are you guys excited about this month? Who's gonna go first?
It's okay, don't be afraid.
Yes.
There we go.
I recently got more comfortable hooks.
Okay. Sweet. Cool. When you were looking up the React hook stuff, did you have any specific sites that you thought were particularly useful in helping you get up and running with them?
Yeah, this good one called Google.
Google. Is that .net?
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Stop.
.gov, right? So when you used Google, was there a particular site that about it just used the React docs, or was there a specific?
There was a lot of those.
Just, you don't know which one.
Like, and then we also have a lesson.
Sweet. Awesome. What else? What else are you guys excited about? Yes, TJ.
The Vue CLI 4.2 came out. 4.2 to 2.0 fixed like a core vulnerability in the Vue UI, and there's a couple of bug patches. So they're like 4.2.
What version? 7?
4.2.x.
Sweet.
Don't worry,
fixes.
I'll find. I always find links for all this stuff.
Yeah.
So like, if you see me writing gibberish up there, that's me just having some fun, and I'll actually put real notes in the channel.
The gibberish will remain, but we'll also have links. Yes. A new major version of Yarn.
Well, not yet, right? Yarn 2 is almost out. Still in beta.
I think it's still in beta.
Yeah. Do you know what's all the sweetness that's coming out of that?
I don't. I mean, changes to workspaces and I think pretty.
It makes workspaces apparently not suck anymore. Because we also are looking at that, but apparently there's a lot of breaking changes. So like, again, keep out for those major upgrades.
Sweet. What else? Kyle, what are you excited about this month?
Kyle Coberly.
Hey! Who is also our speaker for next month.
I've been going pretty hardcore on certain CI.
Okay.
I've been trying to work on code quality tools. So I found that like a lot of the DevOps stuff is like 90% ops, 10% dev.
Mm-hmm.
I think they have a lot of like practical applications and dev workflows. And so I've been trying to come up with like a canonical like linting, formatting, running tests in containers, so that you don't like ever run into conflicts with like a testing database versus dev database. And so we're working on a lot of tooling for that. And I wrote a Docker tutorial today.
Oh, sweet.
Yep. Also, to wit, every time I do something like that, I'm always like, man, this is so much easier than when I have to do it in Rails because the Docker stuff for Node works exactly the way that you expect.
Mm-hmm.
The Docker stuff for Ruby has like 101 asterisks on it. So, fuck Ruby, I guess.
Yeah. that's our conclusion there. Fantastic. Cool. What else? Yes.
I'm more of a hobbyist, but
Sure.
I finally was able to just build an app without looking up on the skills a little bit.
Yeah.
React is really easy for more of a hobby.
Yeah.
And getting to learn focus from the beginning. How do you do
Yeah. Cool. Congrats.
You're doing better than me, man. I'm always in them docs.
Yeah. Any other personal high fives this month? Yeah.
I saw a proposal. I think it's like optional object chaining or something like that. But if you have an object.property.second property, and second property doesn't exist and it breaks whatever you're trying to call, it's like object.first property (second property) and it'll check if it's there, and it's not, it won't break things.
Yeah.
Look into the language.
It's pretty cool. Yeah. I think Chrome, as a Chrome 80, it already supports it, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's in the ES 2020 spec or ES 2019 spec. Yeah.
Yeah. Pretty cool. Pretty cool stuff. Yes, Kyle. What are you excited about this month?
Not specifically code related, but I found out today that the guy who invented the term TechNet meant it to be used nothing like it actually gets used now. Yeah, he was referring to like features that were missing, like sub features that might also make them useful or might also be implemented in the future. At no point was he referring to like kludges, bad engineering, something with no tests, anything like that. It was at a level above that where it might not have all the features that it needs at some point down the road.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I'll have to Google that one.
Yeah.
Or wait, it changed names. What is it?
It's how do you pronounce it?
Google. Google.
Yeah. Michael Google. All right. Who else? Yes.
My entire team hates Apollo right now.
Okay.
I don't know if that's news, but we so our app's kind of weird. Our users are running for like 8 or 9 straight hours.
Okay.
And it's a chat app for doctors. So doctors run it all the time, and we just started getting reports that there was some performance degradation. And so performance, anything is kind of rough. It's one of those like definition of insanity where you do the same thing, you get 2 different results.
Yep.
And what we found out was Apollo has no cache busting, and so by definition, every query that it does, it caches everything. And so they started, like, one of our front-end engineers was like going through the Apollo docs trying to figure out how do you cache bust, and there's a big open issue on the GitHub, and cache busting's hard, so we don't do it.
Just restart every hour. You're sorted.
Yeah, so we had to do something like that where it wouldn't hurt performance, but then try and clear out the crap. But then it turns out that cache busting is super hard. So we have to figure it out now. But apparently in Apollo 3, they have some version of cache busting.
Sweet.
So that's so stoked about
for those who are slightly unfamiliar, there's two things that are hard in computer science: naming and cache invalidation.
Yeah.
That's it.
And off by
Off by
winner.
winner. That's good. That would be a really good talk once you get that figured out.
You know what's funny is it's like there's actually like 4 problems, and that was the biggest one. So I was never thinking about putting it talk together because it's like a year-long nightmare trying to figure some of this shit out. It's like we do one thing and it helps, and then our user base is growing. And it's like simultaneous because it's like all these doctors are online simultaneously. And this WebSocket thing, it's gross.
Yeah, no, that'd be a really cool talk once you get that figured out. Cool. Any others?
I got one.
Yes.
I've got something.
Oh man, we're all over the place. Well, I go first.
Fine.
Two things.
Yeah.
You said one.
Yeah, that's off by one area.
Off by one, yeah. Unrelated to JavaScript, I had to like write a unit test in Go, and I had to mock the time function. That was kind of a pain in the ass.
That just came out today, the mock time NPM module, or
Yeah, you just published
Go.
oh right, go.
Yeah, so don't try to do it. It's not fun. I don't remember the last time that I brought this up, but the pipeline operator is in stage 1 of the proposal process, and the partial application syntax is also in stage 1. So we're making headway.
That's 3 things.
For what language? This is for JavaScript.
Yeah, for JavaScript. Yeah.
Fair question.
Yeah, those are fair questions.
Wait, so pipeline operators where?
It's in stage 1.
Wasn't it?
It's been stage 0 for fucking ever. What was the other one?
Partial application syntax is in stage 1.
Partial.
Yes.
Oh my god. That's what it is.
I think you got it. There's no right underline. There's no right underline, so you spelled it right. All right.
Yeah. Now I'll remember. The other thing that I came across when we were just going through some like performance enhancements for our app, and that's when I found Brotli. Brotli is a different compression algorithm that came from Google. It's now supported in most major browsers except Internet Explorer, but who cares? You can serve gzip too, but I mean, to give you an idea of like the compression size savings, we were taking a 3 meg gzip file, and with Brotli was 1.75 megs. So I mean, big time compression savings. Unfortunately, Netlify does not support it. I thought it was just the browser needed to, but you need to find someone to support Brotli, not just the browser. So it's there. You should look into it, and if you figure out how to actually use it, let me know. Huh?
Nginx has support for it.
Nginx? God damn it. Well, I just need DevOps to actually help support it. They put me on Netlify because they're like, yeah, we don't want to support anything.
Any others? All right. I'll bring one back from last month. Matt suggested, if you guys haven't used it, the Great Suspender Chrome extension, because I always have about 100 tabs open, and it has been a lifesaver.
Wait, hold on. I got a great. Yeah. Let's. Here you go.
Yeah,
you see all these tabs that I always have open? This is what it does.
Yeah.
It makes it sleep.
Yeah.
And then once you actually need it, you just click it and it'll just resume the tab.
Yeah.
And you can also tell like, hey, don't ever like put these to sleep, which are my pin tabs. So
Yeah, it's pretty neat. If you have a lot of tabs open, I highly recommend it. Matt mentioned it last month, and it's been a lifesaver for me. You do cool stuff. Huh?
Does it not take a RAM?
No,
yeah,
it shuts
it kills
the thread.
all the processes.
Yeah, it's really neat. And then when you click it, it spins it back up again, right where it leaves you where you just were. But it's pretty cool. You can whitelist explicit URLs or entire domains, or you can have like checkboxes for like if you have like Pandora or like Spotify in the background. It's like don't ever suspend something that's playing music, like stuff like that. It's pretty neat. Yeah, it's a Chrome extension. Yeah, it's called the Great Suspender. Yeah, it's pretty neat. So yeah, so plug for that one. That one was great. Cool. All right. Anything else before we move on? Cool. So let's see what we did that. Oh, cool. Well, at least this is updated. Okay. So one of the things that we started to talk about was do like an abridged code of conduct. If you're interested in our full one, you can check it out on our website, DenverScript.com. But as we lead into our first set of speakers, and then we're going to have breaks in between and stuff, just a few things to keep in mind. For those of you that have seen Bill and Ted, be excellent to each other, right? Like we've taken a lot of time to make this a warm and welcoming meetup. We ask you to please do the same and just be nice to each other.
Hold on. Show of hands. Who actually knows Bill and Ted?
Nice.
I saw hands not up. I'm just saying.
I'm actually glad you asked that because I thought it was going to be like 2 people in a reel being like, yeah, that dates you. But great. So be excellent to each other. Be inclusive, like in a sense that like, hey, Kyle said this great at the Denver conference last year, which you should definitely go to this year, by the way. A good rule of thumb is like the Pac-Man rule. If like you're talking with a group, leave an opening for someone else to go just walk in and join your conversation. So you don't have to like awkwardly hover around circles looking for someone to talk to. Let's include people in our conversations. And then this was specifically for we have our speakers. Please, no statement questions, right? Your speakers put a lot of time into getting their talks put together, and they're happy to answer questions if you have some. But please, don't raise your hand and be like, well, when I worked with React Native, here's what I did, right? Or like, well, you know, there's a more efficient way to do that. No one cares. If you want to give a talk about it, you can give a talk about it. Otherwise, please respect their time, and don't be that guy in the back of the audience, okay? Cool. So with that, the one last thing that I'll say about the being inclusive stuff and all of that, we had a lot of hands go about cool stuff people are working on. Unfortunately, we can only have 2 speakers per month. So a reason why we do the what's going on in JavaScript land is so you can hear about other stuff people are working on that you might find interesting. So, you know, chat about it, ask each other questions, and help each other out. We have a really great community here. So let's take advantage of these things for that. So with that, we'll move on to our first speaker. You. Sweet.
Done, yeah.
Come on up.
There he is.
While he's getting set up, this would be a great time if you want to get another beer. I don't know if there's any pizza left, restroom break or whatever. Now's a good time to do all of that. Oh, and get some 5-year anniversary stickers if you'd like. I got you.
You literally
Are you gonna head out early? Are you gonna leave early? Let me get started. So everything goes out to the first speaker. We do that. So what we can do is, while we're getting people to write their names and stuff, we can give Christian,
It varies a bit.
I use the yellow one. I have to switch that one in my house. It should never be switched off. So I just put under the switch. Yes. I'm in experience. Yeah.
I think we're out.
Nope, you got more.
We're not on the way. Yeah, we have some done. What's up?
Huh? Grabando. Se escucha hablando.
All right. That was my way of saying, please quiet down. All right, everyone, welcome Jonathan.
So out of curiosity, how many of y'all have some code in JavaScript where you have a list of things that are enumerable, like user roles? You have admin, someone, all right, so quite a few hands, all right? So what I'm gonna show you is just some stuff I picked up and something that makes my personal quality of life much easier in using JavaScript. So imagine you have to implement this function called has permissions. In this case, all it really needs to do is if the role is greater than viewer, i.e. it's publisher or admin, then return true, right? So the naive way to sort of implement this is just to use some logic, right? So if role equals admin, or role equals, I can type viewer, right? So that's something trivial. Who loves copy pasting strings in their code base? Except for Guillermo. So far, right? So you might be tempted to sort of roughly take this and turn around and go to user roles admin, or update this to user roles viewer. Right? So that's a pretty trivial way to do that. This gets tiring really quickly once you jump outside of your module, because now you kind of lose a bit of context, and now you have to keep everything in mind. You just have to jump around. It's kind of painful. So ideally, what would be lovely is if we could say if the role is greater than user roles.viewer, that should work, right? However, right now that's false because way too long to explain A to Z. A comes first, which is less than Z. Like, let's just roll with that. So this doesn't work in the way that we want it to. So how can we make this work in the way that we expect it to, right? So in the JavaScript world, when you use, let's say, a number, right? Right now, it basically, what it does is it takes this object, and you think it calls toString and then +1, right? That's why you end up with a string, which is, adding an object to a number makes 0 sense anyway. That is also makes no sense, the output, right? However, what you can do with an object is you can override its function of value of. Now, value of, I'm not going to get into it too much, but roughly what it boils down to is any object that has this function, value of, can return a primitive type, which will be used to do some extra magic stuff. Roll with me here. I'm not going to explain too much because I only have like 10 minutes. So I'm going to return 5. Let's just go with 5, right? So now if I do object +1, I get 6. Magic, right? So yeah, woo, indeed. And so now if I go back to this thing and say, okay, how can I actually implement user roles viewer to be, for this inequality to make sense? What I could do basically is take this, change this to, let's say, value here, value of, and return a number over here. So what number should we return over here, right? So since admin's at the top, we want it to be the highest number. So let's just say 3, right? Or we can go 2 if you want to do, off by 1, 0 versus 1. So if I take this, I'm going to copy paste some things, replace a few things. Always fun when you're live coding and you're actually writing, pasting it from somewhere. That really is, you can see what I'm doing to make this work. Right? So now if I do this, is admin greater than thing? So that's true.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Right? First try. Yes. And so if we change this to viewer, we should expect it not to work, right? But if we change this inequality to greater or equals, that should work just fine. All right, so here's a simple little trick to making stuff to be comparable. Less than, greater than, less than equal to, greater than equal to. So this might seem a little kludgy, and to be honest, it is a little kludgy. So what do you do when you encounter kludge in the code base?
Abstract.
And or?
Delete.
Yes. Or delete. I was hoping someone would say refactor. But that's okay. So here's the interesting thing, right? So let's skip this log permission thing, and let's take a look at what happens when we do stringify our user roles.viewer, right? Right now it says value in viewer, which is kind of correct, right? It's got this value key here in viewer. What if we're passing this to a network thing and we actually, the value thing doesn't make any sense. We just don't even want it to do it, right? So I'm going to change this out here a little bit, and let's just say role is that, right? So if I run this, it says role has value in this viewer, which is not really what we want. What we want is role to be just the viewer string. So we can do another simple little JavaScript magic thing. If we implement the JSON to JSON function, what we can then do is just return this value. And so now when we run this, we have role with viewer. So any object can participate in JSON serialization by implementing this to JSON function. And any object can participate in inequality checking by implementing this value of and returning some numeric type. Right? To show you sort of somewhat of a production-y type of thing, I'll show you some stuff that we have. See if it's a little better. Yeah, so what we end up doing for our stuff at work is we end up having this user role class, and the user role class takes a value, and then we implement the toJSON just returns that value. That's all it does, because it's like, don't put anything in this class, just return the bare value. And then our value of over here, we kind of switch on what this is over here. And we roughly say, if it's an admin thing, return 3, 2, 1, 0, et cetera, et cetera. Now, you might be wondering, this class is called user role, but where the hell does user roles, plural, come from, right? And that's down here with this little helper const. And all we say inside of here is we have new classes in here. User role admin, publisher, viewer, empty. And so all we export in this class is, in this entire file, we export this particular class, which you can actually get away with. In the beginning, we had that. But we only export it for test purposes, so bear with me here. So down here, what we roughly have is a static list of user roles, if you will. Right? These are the only things that are defining the entire application. No one else is allowed to create them. So how then do you get a user role out of a string? Right? So we have this little function that just takes a string and does some case comparisons, returns the actual object over here. So an admin is going to return this thing over here, this value. It's roughly good. It's a little bit magical, but 2 functions, value of and toJSON. You can learn a lot more about them on NDN. Mozilla Developer Network. So that way you can actually have some sensible tests or some sensible enums. And to have tests, I'll kind of show you. We use Jest, and so we have test.each with a bunch of stuff. Just of it being, these are the tests that end up running. Right, so because we have test.each, we can run a whole bunch of them by defining very small amounts. So we have, these comparison operators, and we make sure they run correctly. And this is just some of the output that comes up there, just to kind of show you that this is baked into our production app. And this is the kind of stuff we use. Questions? Christian?
When you learn this, were there any pitfalls that you think we should avoid when trying to implement it?
Don't get carried away. Because you can actually do some really wonky stuff with this. If you know that JavaScript is single-threaded, you can abuse it to do a whole bunch of stuff. You can have you can use other operators like double greater than, which is like a bit shift operator to combine up. Just don't. Just do this. Don't go any past this. Just do it. You'll be in trouble. Yes, back there.
Can I ask your opinion on something about security? So we did something like this with Castle with Vue, and my question would be, do we want to implement this on the client side? That particular.
Sure.
What would be? What is your
with regards to any kind of security, you want to put both of these on the front end and on the back end. If you don't do it on the back end, you should quit your job. Really, quit. Like, just stop. You really should be implementing security in both places. You're only going to implement on the client side for convenience mostly, but your API should be verifying all these kinds of ACLs, that kind of stuff, on the server side as well. Kyle.
I can't think of a valid reason to do this, but
Sure.
You mentioned for value of you can return a primitive value.
Yes.
You return another object.
You can, and then it will use that thing's thing. So it just kind of goes down the prototype chain. Don't do it. Yeah, you really want to get in trouble, feel free.
Sounds horrible.
Yeah.
The spaghettiest of the code, right?
Yeah.
Mainly if Kyle says, I don't see a reason to do this, it's already bad.
I made an April Fool's Day joke. You just incept everybody's entire code base and release all those objects.
Don't do that. Are you wanting to redo Ruby? Like, that's what you want your All right, so if that's it, then I'll leave it at that. Thank you, everyone. Hopefully, it works for you.
All right, Kim is finally here. Thank you, Kim, for fixing all the things that broke the worker or whatever emergency popped up. So while she's getting set up, if you didn't get a chance to enter in the raffle, while she's getting set up, Kyle, would you like to talk about what it is they're going to win?
Indeed.
Sorry, what you might win.
You might
Might win. Hi, everybody. My name is Kyle. We're at a conference called Develop Denver. Who's been to Develop Denver? Yeah. So I see a lot of people that need to experience the magic that is DVLP. So this is going to be the 9th year of our locals only conference. This is local speakers, it's local attendees. It is in the going to be on Brighton Boulevard again this year, just like it's been for the last 2 years. It's multiple venues. It's kind of designed to feel like summer camp. You run into people that you know, you meet a lot of people that you don't know, but it's really focused around connecting and educating the people in this community. And so a lot of people did their first conference talk, and it wasn't their last one. So if you're a first-time speaker, we welcome you to come speak. If you haven't been to a conference before, if you have been to a conference before, this is a really unique experience, and we're kind of amping it up this year a little bit also. We're trying to find ways to drive more interactivity, create more opportunities for you to meet new people, and way more opportunities to learn stuff at a deeper level. So that's what the conference is about. We're doing a raffle here.
Yes.
Do I get to pick?
Yeah. Is there everybody that wants to submit done it? Okay. We'll take a minute to do that. Everybody wants to do that? Do that real quick, and then I'll be giving out a free ticket to the
That's the power of salesmanship.
Came across that trick about a month ago during a coding challenge. It's scary. Well, it is not. The entire language is scary. I have used that trick for big film.
Whoa! Like every customer.
When you look at the
Got 2 years.
Have a lunch.
Turnabout, you can the next time you look at it.
I mean, I do.
The TLDR is I should absolutely never be a responsibility. So we also say if you want to go in another build
Is there anybody sitting here, do you know? My bad, I can't see. I didn't see that before. This is yeah. Huh? You can do both of those things. Make sure you're in frame though.
Oh, keep on.
Team social production always has like death involved.
All right. Has everyone put in for the raffle if you want to be part of the raffle? All right.
Are you ready to find out who got it?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Is one Calvin Brook here?
Yeah.
Hey. All right. Round of applause!
So I don't think I don't actually have a physical ticket. So
I owe
Well,
you.
well, it's a digital era. There's no such thing as a ticket.
But trust me, I'm good for it.
one,
And I owe you.
I already want to get to
the boss. There you go. That should get you in. All right, round of applause for Calvin. Cool. All right. Are you ready for your headline speaker tonight? Yeah. All right. Your speaker tonight was a Teach for America alum. She's a teacher trainer at Teach for America. She's a Galvanize grad. She's a Galvanize instructor. She's a Galvanize instructional director. She is a site reliability engineer at Fairwinds. She is the director of education for Develop Denver. Ladies and gentlemen, good friend of mine, might be a good friend of yours. Round of applause for Kim Schlesinger.
Oh, so good. Hello, everybody. Hello, those of you who are watching on streaming or in the future on YouTube. This talk is called Path, Bin, and PS1. And before I dive in, I'm going to ask you to talk to your neighbors periodically throughout the talk. So before we do that, just turn and say hello to your neighbor, whether you know them or not.
Hello, Jen.
They don't know my
All right, thank you. Yes, we have a very lively. I want to say a special shout out to my new friends from Flatiron School. Some of you I met Friday. Nice to see you here. All right, so I'm wondering, has this ever happened to you? You're like going to install maybe some new software, maybe like node.js, and you get through the installation instructions and it's like, cool, node.js is installed on your machine. And then there's this part, and that part says, make sure that user local bin is in your path. You might have seen it somewhere else that says add it to your path.
And if you are like me for many years, you just thought, I don't quite know what that means. Luckily, most of the installations worked, but I wasn't quite sure. So in this talk, I'm going to hopefully demystify the path variable for you, talk about the bin directory, and then tell you about the PS1 variable, which is the way you can customize your command line. So hello, I'm Kim. Like Kyle said, I'm a site reliability engineer at a company called Fairwinds Ops. And before that job, I worked at Galvanize. I was a full-time instructor, and I've started saying part-time JavaScript developer at that job. But when I started my job as a site reliability engineer, I had to install a lot of software on computers that were not my own, and I had to encounter the path variable a lot more. And I still didn't know what it meant, so I actually decided to write this talk in order to get a better handle on what the path variable is and to look into some of these other concepts. So that's where I'm coming from. A caveat, the things I'm talking about tonight are going to be this star Nix, which Kyle told me because I asked him, means Unix-like operating systems. So the specific things I'm going to talk about apply to Unix, they apply to Linux, they apply to Mac OS, and they apply to all the flavors of BSD. Windows has the same ideas, but the details are different. So if you're a Windows user, some of the like specific files or commands won't work for you, but you will be able to have the concept hopefully and look those things up on the internet. So our agenda for this evening, first thing we'll do is I'll talk about some key terms, and that will give us a shared vocabulary to talk about these concepts. Then we'll dig into the path variable and what it is. Then we'll look at the bin directory, and we'll wrap up with the PS1. So first thing is some key terms. And the first term is one I suspect most of you have heard, which is environment variables. Environment variables are key value pairs that your system or your computer can access. The convention for naming environment variables is having all uppercase letters, and then you separate words with an underscore. If you are a code school student, you've probably, when you get closer to your capstone, you use like a .env file to set environment variables for different environments that your application is going to run in. So maybe your machine is your local environment, and then maybe there's a staging deployment somewhere, and then maybe there's the production deployment, and they all have different environment variables. So I'm going to hop into my terminal. If you want to see the environment variables on your computer, you actually just type env, and you can see that list there. I'll make that bigger. Maybe. There we go. So these are all the environment variables available here. If you want to see the value of a specific environment variable, you type echo, you use $, and then you type in the name of that variable. So I'm going to show you what the value of my user variable is. Oh, that must not be right. Oh, I didn't add the $. Cool. So my user on this machine is Schlesinger. Cool, so that's environment variables. That's going to come up a lot. The next key term is shell. Nobody explains things better than Julia Evans, who is my hero. She writes a lot of comics and zines explaining things about computers, so I'm just going to read her definition. She says, a shell reads your commands and tells the operating system to do things. So this is the comic that I grabbed that definition from. And we'll just focus on this one panel. So in the panel, you see the user's typing a command, ls-l. The shell, which is bash, looks at that command, and then it passes all of that information to the operating system, which in the comic is Linux. And it's like, cool, I can do that for you. So to see the shell that you're using, you can do echo shell. Shell is also an environment variable. Let's take a look at mine. So shell I'm using is bash, and there are a couple of common shells, and I bet you're using one of them. So the first one is the Bourne shell. Bourne shell was created by Stephen Bourne at Bell Labs, and it was released in 1979. It's built into most operating systems, and you've probably seen it. A lot of times it lives at /bin sh. Another common shell is called the born again shell, which is also referred to as bash. It was created by Brian Fox for the GNU project as a free software replacement for the Bourne shell. Bash is also a scripting language. If you go to the Flatiron School, Brian Fox, that's who that room is named after. It was released in 1989, and until very recently, Bash was the default shell that came with the Mac OS operating system. Another shell, one I used to use, I don't use this one anymore, it's because of the tools I use at work. Get really upset when I use Zish, but the other one is Zish. Zish was created in 1990 by Paul Falstad. He was a student at Princeton at the time. Starting with the Catalina operating system on Macs, Zish became the default shell for Macs. And Zish has like this really cool community called OhmyZSH or OhmyZish. It's an open source community where you can like download plugins and get all these cool colors, and there's themes, there's all sorts of cool things. And Zish is very fun in that way. So from Julia Evans again, Bash and just your Bourne shell are almost always there. Zish has more features, a lot of us use that. And then there's also one called Fish, which I haven't covered, but if you're curious, you should look into that. All right, so I went through some key terms. I want you to take a moment and just think back, what were the key terms that I covered? And then just turn to somebody next to you and like literally say the words and then give the definition.
Bash probably stands for
I just remember shell. It tells the operating system. Fish sound good.
Yeah, I use and bash. That's why I really do.
All right, go ahead and wrap up your conversation. So I'm just looking for a volunteer to raise their hand and tell me one key term and what it means. Yes?
Bash stands for born again shell.
Bash stands for born again shell. You got it, thank you. All right, another volunteer, one of the key terms. Derek.
Environment variables are key value pairs that you have access to.
Environment variables are key value pairs you have access to. What's the convention for naming them? All uppercase, separated by underscores. You got it. Cool. Environment variables, bash, another key term. Another volunteer. CJ?
Shell.
Shell, what's a shell?
It is something, wait, well, I forget the like the easy definition.
Oh, look.
Yeah.
I remember.
Shell reads your commands and tells you what.
Shell reads your commands and tells your operating system what to do. Shell, during this talk, like prepping for this talk, there are things like I kind of knew about, but shell's still one of those things I'm like, I kind of know what it means, but I'm not sure how well I know that. Cool. One other, there was there was the born again shell, bash. What was another shell we talked about? Zish and just the board shell. Yep, cool. All right, so that was key terms. Next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna dig into the path variable. And that's the first thing you need to know is that path is an environment variable. And so you can see your path with echo, $, all caps path. This is a screenshot of my path from this computer, which is probably not even that gnarly of a path. But this is what it looks like. For the purposes of this talk, we're going to use this path as our example. It's a little bit simpler. It's not as long as the one on my actual computer. So here's what you need to know about the path variable. It's an environment variable. It's one long string. This is the thing that blew my mind. It's a colon delimited string. And so what that means is each value, you say that value is done with a colon. Sometimes we do that with commas, sometimes we do that with spaces. The path variable, it's with colons. And the paths that the path variable holds are literally directories on your computer where the code for commands that you run, like print working directory, make directory, change directory, where all of that code actually lives. So let's decompose this path variable. So the first location where executable code is stored is user local sbin, and then there's a colon. And then the next location is user local bin. It's a different directory. Next location is user sbin, followed by user bin, and then sbin, and then bin. So, if you're downloading something and it gets put in a directory that's not on your path, you can permanently edit your path. And the way that you do that is you have to figure out which is my configuration file for my shell. Sometimes it's called .bash_profile, sometimes it's .bashrc, or sometimes it's zishrc. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to permanently edit your path. And the thing we're going to add to the end of the path is that user local go bin. Maybe you installed Golang and it gets downloaded in that directory. So I'm going to have to put the microphone down, but what I'm going to do is open up my bashrc. I'm going to add a colon, add that user local go bin to the end, and then I'm going to source that file and look at the path again. Oh, I cleaned my path up. That's my current path. I want to permanently change the path. So this is my bashrc file. You see this says export path and it has all those values in it. And so I want to add a new value. So I do colon / user, I think it was local go bin, local go bin. Make sure that's saved. And then I'm in an instance of a shell. And in order to get my shell to relook at my bashrc, I'm going to use a command called source. So source.bashrc. And then when I echo the path again, hey, look at that. I see the new directory added to my path.
First try.
First try. I never practiced that. I did not practice the person practiced that like crazy. So there's the thing appended at the end. Sometimes maybe you want to temporarily edit your path, like you're just going to try some new software or you just want to try it out. You can just do all of that from the command line. And the way that you would do that is, this command here where you would say, I'm going to set my path variable and I want you to grab my old path, and then you're going to add that other thing at the end. So I'll give it a try. All right, so you say path, say path, and then you're going to say new directory here, and let's see if that worked. So you can see the new directory there, and then if I open a new shell, that won't be on the path because I didn't export it permanently. Ooh, please clap. Just All right, last thing you should know, if you download some software and you're like, shit, I do not know where that thing went, there's a command on your system called which, and it'll just show you where does the code for that command or that software live. So if you don't know where your node.js lives, you can type which node. That's where mine is. You can do which npm. And you can see where all those things went. All right.
You're specific to Mac, or is this a command that PC?
I think which is on those Unix-like systems. So I don't know about Windows, but I think all the other ones. All right. That was the overview of the path variable. So I want you to think about one thing you learned, or maybe you learned nothing, something you'd like to tell me. But I want you to think about what do you know now about the path variable that you didn't know before? And then turn and talk to your neighbor. And let them know.
I got the
You can download them. Except when we had like a certain security feature, so I had to it's crazy. It works. People are also scared of it is pretty hard. There's a lot of like
All right, I'm going to wrap up the conversation. I'd like to hear from two people who haven't volunteered during this talk. What's one thing you know now about the path variable? Could I have a volunteer raise their hands? Hero.
The which command is great. Because normally I'm just Googling, where does Node install itself?
Where's Node? You say which node?
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. I'm glad you're doing that.
Yeah.
Cool. Someone else. Someone from this side, preferably. Yeah, go ahead.
Temporarily set your path variable.
Yeah, you can temporarily add to your path variable if you want, just to try things out. Cool. Question.
So if you export that path, but you don't put it in your bash recipe, is it permanent?
That's a good question. So I gave a lightning talk on this before, and the question is, if you use the word export and then make the change to your path, your command line, will that work? That didn't work for me in the talk. You can like echo it and pipe it into the file, but that's something you should try on your system. I think it depends. One more question.
You said that the path is where you keep like the executable code on your thing. Why are there multiple paths? Why don't you keep all your executable code in like just one?
Such a good setup for my next section. No, really. So the question was, why have more than one directory? And so the next thing that we're going to talk about is the bin directory and like why it exists. So /bin, it stands for binary, which in this case is a file you can execute or like a little computer program. In the bin directory and all of those other directories on our path, that's a collection of scripts. And the bin directory specifically has some really common commands that a lot of us use, like cat, make directory, echo, which you see me use, print working directory, and remove. This was all new information to me. This weekend I learned all this. So when you open up your shell, you get dropped in your home directory, which is tilde. And then there's this other directory that you kind of have to go to, and it's called the root directory, and it's just with that /. And so if you have a computer now, or you're gonna go and look at your computer tonight, I would really recommend you just open up your terminal and type ls /. So I'll do that. Oops, got to type the command. Okay, so this is my root directory. And it has some Mac specific things, but it also has a lot of those directories that we saw in the path. So bin, dev, temp, etc. or etc., sbin, user. And there's a reason that those Unix-like systems all have similar directories in the root directory. And it's this thing which is called the, let's see, file system hierarchy standard. And this is a visual representation of it. So you see the very top is /root. And then there are all of these sections on it, like bin, etc, sbin, user, var, and dev. And they all have some meaning. And when you buy a new computer, it comes loaded up with a lot of those commands. And when you download things, you often put it in user. So I'm just going to read this out loud. So the file system hierarchy standard, FHS, defines that directory structure we just saw and directory contents in Linux distributions. It's maintained by the Linux Foundation, and the latest version is 3.0, which was released on June 3rd of 2015. And so my computer probably isn't adhering strictly to this standard, but it's something close. And Linux systems probably adhere to this exactly. And since there's so many Linux distributions, you want your computers, you want to have some predictability as a user as you're setting it up. And so that's what that standard does. So I'm going to talk through a couple of, or more than a couple, several of the directories in the root directory. So the first one is bin, stands for binary. It holds common commands for both system administrators and users. The next one is sbin, that stands for system binaries, and that's more commands. Next one is dev, that one holds device files. Next one is etc or etc, that's got configuration files. Then we have /tmp, that holds temporary files. And finally, /user, that holds some read-only data about you and your applications and lots of programs that you installed. I'm not gonna toggle all the way back, but if you think back to the path example, there was a lot of user something, something, something. So that's where a lot of our software like node.js gets installed. So that's really all I have to say about that. But there's the bin directory, there's the file system hierarchy standard, and I want you to do the exact same thing that I asked you to do, but think about what's one thing you learned and chat with your neighbor, and I'll take volunteers after.
What? Yeah, that was I didn't know that /bin is that I'm pretty lost in it, and I kind of have like a general.
All right, please wrap up your conversations. I realized one thing I didn't show you is I didn't just show you like what's in the bin directory. So I'm just going to ls the bin directory. And then you see some commands that we use all the time, like cat, echo, move, ls, kill. So that code lives on your computer When you type the command, it looks through your path variable and sees if it can find that code, and then it runs it. So I think that's super cool. I agree. So I would like one person to tell me, what did you learn about the bin directory or the file system hierarchy standard or something about your computer that you didn't know before? Yeah.
I guess the bin directory involves some of the main functions you have for your terminal like OS, things like that. It is one down from your root.
Oh, I like that, yeah. So the bin directory holds a lot of common commands that you use, and it's like one directory into that root directory, which is /. When I was prepping for this talk, I was messing with my path variable, and I somehow took bin off of it. And so when I was like, okay, let me just look through this set of directories, it's like, I can't ls, I don't know what that means. So yeah, it happens. All right, my last part, which is the PS1, and a very fun part. So if you have been looking at my command line and been thinking, how does she have a skull on there? I'm going to show you how. CJ didn't teach me how to do this, but CJ inspired me to learn how to add emojis to my PS1. So, shocker, PS1 is an environment variable, and you can see it with echo $PS1. Let's look at mine. Woo. And I have the skull at the end there. So it's just a value that you set in that file. Nope, I'm using Chrome for this. So PS1 is an environment variable, and it creates that default prompt that you see when you open your command line. This is the example PS1 that we're going to use. It looks tricky, but it's really not too bad. So in that particular PS1, the \u, it's actually going to pull your username from that list of environment variables and display it. The \h is the host name, so your computer name, then \w, the working directory that you're in. And then it's just separated with an @ colon, and a $. So if I change my PS1 to this value, it looks like this. That's Kim Schlesinger, that's my username, and then the @ and then the host name, and then the current working directory, which in this case is that home directory, the tilde. So let me just show you how to do that. So I'm back to my \rc. I'm going to comment out my PS1. I'm going to comment in that example one, save it, go here. I'm going to source the \rc. And you can see it took off the color and the emoji. Woo! So, on my ZSH, if you have like a really good looking shell, you probably have some cool my ZSH theme installed, and like someone's messing with the PS1 and you add that to your OMIZish file. But if you want to add colors and emojis to your PS1, you open that file, bash profile or bashrc or zishrc, and you add something called ANSI color escape sequences before each section of your PS1, and you can add emojis if you like. I gave you mine, and so if I grab this one, and I already have it in my bashrc, so I'm gonna comment that out, and I'll bring this one back in. I'll save it, and then I'll source that, and I should get colors. And I have the cactus at the end. So these are just color codes that you're putting before the different parts of your bashrc. Also, I wrote a blog post about this, so you can have the notes for it. It has all this stuff in it. So that's the PS1. I took this out of the talk, but these things like the CLI color value and LS colors are about getting color in your terminal at all, and then making sure that all of your directories have colors, and so you can enable those things as well. All right, that's all I have to say about the PS1. So first think, what emoji are you gonna put on your PS1? And then turn and talk to your neighbor and talk about what you learned about that variable. Middle fingers.
I don't know yet. Probably the dog.
All right, I want to hear 3 things about the PS1. We'll start here.
I have a question.
I'll get your questions after I hear the comments. Okay, I'm gonna bump it down to 2. 2 things about PS1 that you learned. I'd like to hear from a lady. Ooh, this is a good one. Maybe this one. What is the PS1? Yeah, Lily.
Yes.
It's an environment variable. Yep, it's an environment variable. And what does it do? Or like, what does it set up?
So it's usually like at the beginning of
Yeah, it's the prompt at the beginning of your command line. Excellent, thank you. One other thing, what did you learn about PS1? Yes.
I learned you can add emojis to it.
You can add emojis to it. If you don't know, on Mac, emoji selection is Command Control Spacebar. So, oh yeah, it's a little slow. That's how you get that. Oh, that was a revelation to me when I learned about it. All right, cool. So to recap, we talked about the path variable. It's an environment variable that is a path to code on your computer that makes up all those commands that we use or all of the software that we install and use. You can edit your path permanently by finding your configuration file and making the change there. You can temporarily edit your path from the command line. And it is a colon delimited string. The bin directory in the file system hierarchy standard, when you just open your terminal, you're dropped into the home directory, which is tilde. You have this whole other directory where all of that stuff on the path lives, which is the root directory, which is a /. Go and look around there. It's really interesting. If you're like me, I started getting into computers when I started getting into this like a year and a half ago. So, and then PS1 is that thing that shows up, that first command or that first prompt you see on your command line. You can customize it. Someone else can customize it for you, especially when you use things like oh my ZSH. So I hope this felt like a simple talk. I did a lot of research for this. There's a ton of resources. I wrote a blog post with all of these links. I have some really cool stickers and stuff up here. So I'm gonna take like 2 or 3 questions, like this Guy Fieri sticker. And I don't know, like a coding garden with CJ sticker and an NPM sticker. Really, I want you to come up and talk to me at the end. So please come up, grab some stickers, say hello. But thank you. I will take 2 questions. First question.
If you have multiple copies of an executable at different locations, how is that resolved?
Well, that's a good question. If you have multiple copies of an executable at different locations, how is that resolved? If both locations are on your path, it's the first thing. It's like the first part of your path. If you're like me, it's one of them's not on your path and it's like you're messing something up. And so that's where the which command comes in really handy, where you're like, oh, well, Brew downloaded it here, but my system is actually saying it's here. And so that's where you get into the which command and look where it's located and then start Googling. One other question, Kat.
How do you restore everything after you delete your bin?
How would you restore everything if you deleted your bin? I don't know. I'm gonna answer it different. I'm gonna answer the question I wish you would have asked me. And then I'll crowdsource the answer to that one. So the question I really wish you would have asked me was, what do you do when you get a new computer? And the answer is you save your dot files and you push them up to GitHub, and then when you get a new computer, you just pull that dot file down and you source it, and then you have your PS1 with a skull at the end. So for the question you did ask, Kyle, do you know? Okay, so let's say you delete your bin directory.
Sure. Well, if you delete your bin directory, you're in bigger trouble. If you take bin out of your path,
if you take bin out of your path,
then what you do, if you just type the path to whatever that command is, like /bin /ls or whatever, you can access the command directly without going to the path.
oh yeah, you can just say like, yeah, /bin /ls, like run that code directly. Anyone know if you delete your bin directory, Jonathan?
So in some operating systems you cannot. Like on Windows will not let you delete certain things. It will just magically reappear. macOS, certain directories are similar. It won't let you. Other operating systems are much more laissez-faire about it, so you can't get yourself in a world of trouble.
Sure. Could you just like, someone's got a repo somewhere you can like clone and be like, oh god,
Clone. What's clone?
Touche. All right, one more.
I was going to ask the same question. Reinstall. Seriously, you might be in trouble.
Yeah, you might need to be like, well, everything's in the cloud, thank goodness. Yeah, if you lost a lot of your commands, then it's really hard, actually. Which honestly is probably why the root directory is really obscured. Even if you are a web developer or you're on your command line a lot, there's a chance you've never looked in your root directory where all that stuff is. And so it's probably intentional obscuration. Yeah. All right, my name is Kim Schlesinger. Come to Develop Denver, check out my website, come get this Guy Fieri sticker, and we'll talk soon.
Awesome, thank you, Kim. Also, she kept saying how like Zish looks pretty. If you don't want to go there, bash it. There's another open source community. A coworker of hers and mine at previous jobs, he dev shaded me into getting out of Zish, so that's why I didn't make my command line pretty.
There's also Oh My Bash.
Ooh, oh my
bash.
Oh My Bash. Yeah, I don't do it.
Well, tomorrow's shot. Damn it. But thank you everyone for coming. Happy 5 years.
Can we give Matt a shout out for starting this thing 5 years ago and still being here 5 years later? That never happened.
And I would have quit a long time ago if I didn't have awesome contributors. Mike and Curran. Full out. You embarrassed me, I'm gonna try to embarrass you. Awesome. Well, everyone, thank you for coming.
Talk 5 years ago?
Huh?
What was the first talk 5 years ago?
You do realize I don't remember what I did this morning, right? That's actually a great question. I have no idea.
Chandler's ASTs?
It was probably Chandler or Brand Conkle because I started when I was at Craftsy. They were my senior devs and they kind of helped me out originally. So it was probably one of them.
No, I think it was Chandler's web performance. I think so. How do you know this?
Well, he was here. In the early years, he never missed a meetup. Anyways, yeah, I'll have to figure that one out. Maybe I'll ask Chandler if he remembers. I doubt it. Awesome. Well, you got about 30 minutes to drink up, socialize, and then I'm gonna like flick the lights like in school. And then that's when we'll be wrapping up. So thank you. Also, whoever won the Develop Denver ticket, if he totally gets you, I know